Oh boy! Hello everybody, it's me, and welcome back to another video. Now, this one is gonna, I don't even know how long this is gonna be, because when I was like, today I want to rank all of the event Lumians, you know? Because I just wanted to see, like, I wanted to be like, you know what, since the Jolly Festival event is ending, I might as well rank all of them. So when I went to go do the ranking, there's like way too many event Lumians, so we're gonna go with the flow, and we're going to just rank all of them and see how long this is gonna take me. But yeah, hopefully that you guys enjoy, and if you just want to see the ending tier list, just skip around toward the end. I'll leave a timestamp on the screen now if you just want to go see the end tier list. But yeah, honestly, there is a lot to go through. I'm praying I didn't miss anything because I went through this so many times, and I am confident I have every single event Lumian and my opinion on them. I'm going to try to make my opinions really quick with them, though. Anyway, hope you guys enjoy, and let's get straight into it. And heading straight into it, I want to say one thing really quickly. We have, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tiers this time. The 6th tier is like its own tier of like brokenness, so let me know what you guys think is going to be in there. But yeah, hopping straight into D tier, we actually have 2 Lumians in D tier. Okay, one final thing before we get into it, and when I'm gonna talk for like 30 minutes straight, I want to say that this is purely my opinion. You know, I think it's really hard to rank a lot of these things because there's not really like super specific tiers like C+, C-, C, B. You know, I don't have all that. So I'm just kind of going off of the 5 tiers of D, C, B, and A, and S, and then the one last tier that's just kind of broken stuff. And I just want you to know, again, this is what I think about the Lumians themselves. So if you get mad, that's really funny. Anyway, gonna hit straight into it, and heading into D tier, we actually are going to have 2 Lumians in D tier. And what I think is personally the worst event Lumian ever that we have right now, I gotta say it's Spreezy. I don't like Spreezy. I think its role that it has is really weird. It's supposed to be something that can set up sat plant and stall, but it doesn't even do that correctly. Its speed stat, it used to be really strong. Spreezy used to be really good, but nowadays it just really sucks, and I hate it a lot. I don't enjoy using Spreezy, and if it got battering ram in the future, it'd be really cool to see maybe some very robust boot sets, but not anytime soon. And then for the second Lumian in D tier, we are actually going to have Festifer, which is actually a Lumian I used a long time ago, and Festifer itself is definitely one of those Lumians that I feel like could do something. It's like resists half the game and is weak to half the game, so it's really like a 50-50 if it's gonna work, but then it's too slow, you know? And if you want to use a defensive set, regift is often hard to come by, and it's since these are all events and it's one of its better abilities, it's a secret ability, it is difficult to get a PvP one. But yeah, that'll wrap up the D tier. I'll leave it on screen now. And then hopping into C tier, at the bottom of C tier, I'm going to go with Cosmere Encased. Now, my thing with Cosmere Encased is that I don't really think it's that strong, because I think it's being walled by metal really sucks, being the best defensive typing in the game, and really you're a very passive Lumian, and you have no way to passively deal damage, so it does kind of suck that way for Cosmere Encased, and its SA is also getting changed to like Contact Curse or Bitter Touch, which would make it even worse than it already is, so it would probably even bump down to D tier once that happens. But yeah, moving on for Cosmere Encased, we are going to have Waka Laka. Now, Waka Laka is an interesting one, because I did say recently how Soulburst Iceghoul redefined Bane of Haste and has made it really viable in singles and doubles. But my one critique with it is that, again, its typing kind of sucks, and it is susceptible to priority. I do think it's still really strong, specifically on Bane of Haste, but I'm trying not to be biased toward Bane of Haste here. I'm trying not to, but again, if its whole thing is Bane of Haste, then I will be biased toward it. But Wakalaka's thing is really good under Bane of Haste, but it doesn't necessarily have to use Bane of Haste. But it is pretty good with Bane of Haste, right? But yeah, and hopping into the next one, we're going to have the second to last in C tier, Cram Boss. I don't think Cram Boss is very good at all. I think Battle Chime is such a weird move in Loomian Legacy, specifically because if you're going to use Belly Drum, you need to be able to use a lot of your moves before you have to end up waiting or doing something. And Cram Boss just can't really do that. Battle Chime costing 50 I think is ridiculous. I think it should cost like 0, personally. I think that would make it better. Like 0 or 10 or 20. Something less than 50. Because it costing 50, then you just get like 3 of your, I don't know. It's like, it's not even that hard to stop either. Just get something with Ignorant or get a priority user with Quick Punch and it's just dead, right? Its speed stat is not good enough to abuse the fact that it wants to outspeed everything. And yeah, I don't know. I just don't think Cram Boss is very good. And hopping to the last one of C tier, a very, very forgotten Sweet Retreat Loomian is actually going to be Sinogre. Now, I don't really have that much to say about Sinogre because it's actually one of the Lumians I have not showcased and have not used very often, ever. It's probably one of my least used Lumians of all time. And I know it's got Spite, it has Fade Away, it's got some good options, but again, it's a Spirit type, and Spirit being weak to Light, and there being a lot of Light types, I feel like, right now, especially like Chienta being everywhere because Chienta's really strong. It's just one of those Lumians that I think definitely needs something. Maybe if it got like Sweet Scent, Sweet Aroma, that move that freaking, the ability that Buzzlin gets where it prevents switches, you know? I don't know. But I think that was something that it could have done and then had Fade Away. But then yes, that'd be completely busted. It'd be insanely busted. But again, I think Spite is pretty fine. And doing half of something's health is always good. But I just doesn't think Sinogre can really abuse that. But yeah, that wraps up the C tier now. And hopping to B tier, oh buddy, this gets really big. We went from 2 in D tier, 4 in C tier, to like 11 in B tier. So yeah, this is a step up. But at the very bottom of B tier, I'm going to go with Hognosh. Now, Hognosh is like top of C tier, bottom of B tier. But I went bottom of B tier because I don't actually think it is that atrocious. When I was using it in the Battle Chime video, it was performing really well when it didn't use Battle Chime. Having that, the Madcap plus your stab being boosted as well is really, really nice. And your melee defense getting buffed as well makes you really, really hard to take down. And you having a good coverage options as well to hit water types with Baneful Bash, having Rejuvenate, having Burn Up. You have a lot of options with Hognosh, and I think just having those options is really nice. Plus, it's always solid into Metronet and stuff like that. Like if you use Mysterious Dust, it was actually the best counter to Metronet for a while until I'm pretty sure Harvest Sect was introduced, and then Harvest Sect was really good into Metronet as well. But yeah, that'll end off Hognosh. And then we're going to go into the next one. Is going to be Isagul. Now, Soulburst Isagul I think is really good. Really, really good. But when I'm talking about normal Isagul, I don't think normal Isagul is very good in the slightest. I mean, I think it has its niche. Like, I like Impersonate. Impersonate's pretty cool because it can really catch people off guard that are trying to do stuff. And I think it has that cool option. It has all the elemental chomps. And then it has bulk, right? All that sounds good. And then you realize it's too slow, right? And its typing is weak to a lot of things. And it's too slow to abuse that. It doesn't have a ranged attack stat either. So it can't even do that either. So, yeah. It can't really do anything without Bane of Haste. And it can't set it up without wasting a move slot, which it would like all of its... It suffers from the 4 move syndrome as well. And the next one we're getting into is going to be Mocho. Now, Mocho is another Sweet Retreat Loomian that I honestly think is actually pretty okay. But it definitely has a problem where it's not that hard to beat if you know what you're doing. Like, it's not that difficult to beat a Mocho if you just switch and beat it. You know, bring a ranged wall, do something. You know, it's not that hard to stop. And me personally, I've struggled with it in the past, but nowadays it's not that hard for me to stop. And I feel like if it got more coverage options, it would be much better. But yeah, Mocho is a very threatening sweeper though, but it's definitely not the best sweeper in the game. It definitely has its problems. But yeah, and then we're going into the next one, which is actually going to be Celesting. Now, I think Celesting might be rated a little... I think it's in its perfect spot, in my opinion. I think Celesting is in a fine spot where it is. If it got Rejuvenate, I'd bump it up to A tier instantly, because Rejuvenate on Celesting sounds great. But my problem with Celesting is that it has like only one niche right now, which is to check Glaciadia really well. Even then, Glaciadia can just switch out, bring your Umbrat for some chase down, raging tackles, get a guaranteed kill. And I just feel like it's not that threatening, and I'm never scared when I see it. Though I do like to try to get that Celesting I caught to work. I did like to try that. That was a fun experience. But yeah. And then we're going into the next one, which is actually going to be Cosmeor Cracked form. Now, Cracked Cosmeor, in my opinion, is actually pretty okay. It has Regift right now. Later, it's going to get Gorilla Tactics, which might make it even better. My problem is it, again, can't hit metal types. I'd put it higher if it could hit metal types. It has the ability to use boots. It has Enchanted Coat. You could even use Rageful Plushie. It has options, but being walled by the best defensive type in the game is just a big problem in my opinion. And I feel like it has potential to maybe beat them if it gets enough Peace of Minds up. But again, it's just walled by metals, and it's just too much of a problem in my opinion. And the next one I'm going to go with is Thaumin. Now, Thaumin is like mid overall, right? I feel like Thaumin is just the middest of mid Lumians. It looks like it has a lot of potential because it has like a bunch of coverage moves, Peace of Mind, Priority Mind moves, and then... Hi, kitty! Can you meow? I don't even know what she's doing. Maybe you guys heard the meow. I don't really know. But Thaumin has all those options, but then you look at its like attack stat, it's not great. Like its range attack stat's not great. I mean, like in terms of Pokemon, it hits as hard as a Frogadier, which I think is kind of sad, honestly. And I think later, once we get totemizable event Lumians, then I definitely think that Thaumin will be much better because it's going to have very smart options, smart nimble options, that it's going to be able to hit hard, also have that speed. I think very smart SA would be kind of cool on a Thaumin. But then my Rainbow Whisper one wouldn't be as good, but I guess that is what it is. But yeah, then we're going to the next one, which is going to be Baneki. Now, Baneki, I honestly think is actually pretty underrated. You have Magnify, Landslide, Poison, Nature's Force, Boom Bash, Nab. You have some funny options with it. Plus the fact that it's... I don't know if shells are supposed to do double damage because it's a consumable item. But I do think Baneki has some potential. It's honestly fairly quick. It doesn't hit hard at all if it's not magnified up. Very nimble is kind of cool. Smart nimble is cool. I do think that recently, with the addition of Soul Bursts and stuff like that, it's fallen off a little bit because it's being outsped by like Soul Burst Metronet, Bane of Haste going up for Isagul. I don't know. I definitely think Baneki is pretty mid though, and it probably would be an A tier if it wasn't for like some recent additions. And the next one I'm going with is something that might be a little biased, but I'm going with Holobunch because I like Holobunch personally. I think it is pretty good, especially under Bane of Haste. But again, I'm trying not to be super biased. Even not under Bane of Haste, it's never really gonna get one-shot by anything unless it's like a Vesperatu's Dark Essence boosted Slapdown. Even then, you could run a Shade Pearl and you would live and then kill it. I do think Holobunch, it has a lot of bulk, has a draining move, has good coverage options. I do think if this was like the first edition of Holobunch, it would go down in like C or even D. Probably just C tier, but I do think Holobunch right now is in a really good spot, and especially once we get the very hyper and passive energy regain, it's going to be much better because it's going to be able to get free Peace of Minds, and it's just going to be really strong overall. But yeah, and the next one we have is actually a pretty surprising one. I'm going to go with Dorego. Now, Not Dorego. No, it is Dorego. Dorego is an interesting one on this list because I want to count this toward it getting it technically replacing Dregadine as a Draco Beam sweeper, because Dorego is going to keep Anomaly, whereas Dregadine is going to be losing Anomaly. So with Dorego, it has that Draco Beam potential, drop of youth so it can live hits. I feel like it just has a lot of potential, especially if at some point it gets Perch. It could even do funny stuff with that, with its with like Dark Surge, Draco Beam, Jetstream, and Perch would be a really cool set to see on Dorego, especially with your drop of youth. You could run Robust Clever, drop of youth, and honestly, you would be a very strong sweeper at that point. You might be slow, but you don't necessarily have to be fast to sweep a game. As long as you have like bulk and can do damage, or you're fast and can do damage, then you're chilling, right? Yeah, but moving on from Dorego, we are going to have Adiaga for the next one. Adiaga is, I feel like, another one of those mid Lumians that has potential, but definitely doesn't really keep up, I guess. It's too slow to really abuse it. Yeah, you can Peace of Mind, and then you can tank pretty much any one hit if you really wanted to, like, because you have a melee defense stat, right? And your Hag Psycho Force is really, really strong. You have coverage. I just think it's too slow to abuse it. Maybe under Bane of Haste, like you could use it with Asegul, and it would be really, really good under Bane of Haste, and then you can just like pick your coverage move, right? Because it has so many coverage moves, it's not even funny, right? It's not even funny how much coverage moves it has. But then we're going to go into the next one, which is Gargolem base form. The first Gargolem here, I do think that the base form is probably the worst one, just because the other forms, like, if you want to use an attacking one, just use the attack form. If you want to use a speedy one, just use the speed form. If you want to use a defensive one, just use the defense form, right? Base form is like a combination of all of them, but is just a little not great, I guess. Right, I get you, kitty. But yeah, and then we actually have the last one of B tier. Here we go. Last thing in B tier, in my opinion, I'm going to go with Sea Drake. Now, Sea Drake, I feel like I actually had it in A tier originally, but I moved it down for a specific reason. I'm letting my cat in my room. Hold on. I let it out of A tier because I feel like it's walled by quite a few things. Like, Plant's not the best offensive type, and being walled by Obsidragon is never great. Yeah, you can hit Obsidragon, but you're not going to hit it very hard with that Primal Slash of yours, unless you're not even a boot set. Even then, you would struggle with speed, and you're outsped by a lot of things. I do think that a boot set is the best way to use Sea Drake, but again, it has potential, but you just need to get rid of that Obsidragon, and then it could really shine, you know? And then again, it struggles with energy because it really does not have that much energy, and Thornslam costs 55, which is a kind of a weird spot for it to be in. But even then, it's still really strong. But yeah, that wraps up B tier. That's a lot to talk about in B tier. Of course, I'll be showing them on screen. And yeah, now next we're going to be hopping into A tier, which has, I think, 13. So at the bottom of A tier, I'm going to go with Lashent. Now, Lashent, I feel like, is honestly underrated. It has a pretty good defensive typing and has really good coverage. Plus, it has healing and it has Brawn boost. It has a lot going for it. Plus, it's not even the slowest thing in the world, right? And it has Slap Down, it has Fade Away, it has Ambush, it can work under Fog. It has so much going for it. And I feel like it's just pretty underrated, honestly. Like, at some point it even had Raging Flame, which was a really funny thing for it, being able to status things. And, like, you also have Ambush, so you can threaten things. It's honestly solid. I do think Lashent is honestly pretty great. And I think it definitely deserves its spot at the bottom of A, but I haven't used it enough to get a clear understanding of it. And the next one we're actually going to have is Wobelisk, a pretty surprising one for me because, of course, I love Wobelisk. It's one of my oldest Lumians that I liked using. But I do think that as of recent, with Soulburst Eruptodon, Soulburst Stratosaur, stuff like that, it has definitely fallen off because it just gets one shot by Hellstorm. Airstrike does way too freaking much. Even then, it could run some funny boot set with Hasty. Maybe even go under Bane of Haste Sharpen with Hasty. That could be pretty cool with Wobelisk. And then on top of all of it, you could run Ignorant, Barbs. You can Luster Loot for those Spirit types that want to switch it on your Driving Force. You can Deep Freeze the Water types. It does have a lot going for it, which is again why I put it in A tier. But I do think it's just beaten by a lot of other things. But yeah, the next thing that we have here is actually going to be Barbadger. Now, Barbadger is able to just nuke entire games, right? You have Brawn Boost, you have Dauntless, you have Mysterious Cloak, you have really good abilities, right? Like, Dauntless and Mysterious Cloak are the viable abilities. Do not use Communication. And I do think that it is a very strong Loomian, having the access to Rogue Assault, Ice Hammer, Clay Slap. You have the Ice and Earth coverage, which is nearly unresisted in this game. On top of that, you have Rogue Assault and Brawn Boost. Only problem is it's not that quick and is easily susceptible to things that are faster than it. That can be solved using boots, which is very strong. And the next one we're going to have is Cosmeor. What is it? Unleashed? I think it's Cosmeor Unleashed. And I'm kind of going off of this thing still having Surrogate right now. I am kind of switching between things, which, yes, it's pretty biased, but I'm trying to keep it just in my opinions. Cosmeor Unleashed with Surrogate is just beyond busted. You know, you can just Surrogate a Specialization, Surrogate Ace, Surrogate Foresight. You have so many options with Surrogate, it's ridiculous. It's definitely going to be losing Surrogate, which is very nice, but very sad for Cosmeor. And then it probably will go down like a tier if it loses Surrogate, because Surrogate is just the best thing about Cosmeor, right? And there's not really much to say besides, like, Surrogate. It is walled by those pesky metal types, though, but it has that speed, I guess, and that option to actually hit them really hard with Specialization or even Ace. I do think Cosmeor deserves that spot, though. The next one we're actually going to have is Tundralin. Now, Tundralin's a pretty solid melee wall. No one's denying that. It's very, very good. Obsi being definitely outclassing it as of right now until Obsi gets gutted later, later. And then I think it's losing Body Crash, something that Jamie said. And Tundralin being able to heal, being able to set up. It has pretty much like one viable set. You have like Rejuvenate, Bulk Up, Ice Hammer, and Body Crash. Though you could replace Ice Hammer or Bulk Up for Icicle Traps if you want to have traps. But then you can't really beat Spirit types at all. Even then, you're not staying against Spirit types. Realistically, you're only ever clicking Body Crash as a damaging move with Tundralin, so you don't really care about your other moves. So you realistically could just drop something for Icicle Traps. But yeah, Tundralin's a very strong melee wall, and it's very hard to get off the field sometimes. And the next one we're going with is going to be Miraith. Now, in my opinion, I really like Miraith. I think it is a very, very strong Loomian, having a light immunity, being a spirit type, being able to threaten light types. It basically swaps the matchup on itself. If, like, light types would usually be able to beat a spirit type, now a spirit type can beat a light type. And if you're not really paying attention, Analyze could sweep you as well, because Analyze makes this thing hit really hard with 125 offenses and slow speed, so it's good under Bane of Haste. And having those options is great, though Steel Crusher sucks. Don't use that move. I do think that Miraith is a very strong Loomian and definitely deserves this high placement because it has a lot of options. Fade Away, his signature move, is awesome for offensive-based teams that just want to set up barbs while also dealing damage, which then it's hard to get rid of those barbs because it doesn't activate Regift, which is another plus for Miraith. Yeah, the next thing we're going to have is Gargolem Attack Form. Now, Gargolem Attack Form, I definitely think is a pretty strong thing. It can do a lot of damage, like what, 155 offenses? Hits really hard on the mixed side. Slapdown is really, really good. Has good coverage. Only problem is that it can die in one hit. Solved with Clutch Plushie. You get outsped. You have 105. Chunk boots on. You outspeed everything. I do think that Clutch Plushie is the best option, though. Plus, with Master, if you get a kill and you're at max health, jeez, you're going to blow something up on the next turn. Being at +1 on your offenses with this thing is just really, really good. And it just gets to be really strong. But yeah, then the next thing we're going to have here is going to be Gargolem Speed Form. Gargolem Speed, I think, is really close with Gargolem Attack in terms of usefulness, in my opinion. Because Gargolem Speed is fast. It has provoke. I think if Gargulum Speed didn't have provoke, I would have moved it down and put Gargulum attack above it. Because it has provoke, being able to stop other suicide leads. It has slap down, mudslide, barbs itself. Can also set up icicle trap, because it does get icicle trap, which is funny. You could even run empathize in the end. Like if you're about to die, just be like, oh, I'm gonna empathize. You know, you could replace Mudslide for it, but then you're kind of like against Mirwraith leads. If people lead Mirwraith for whatever reason, you want to set up your own Barb and then spam Mudslide till it dies. You know, because you usually are going to get the 2-hit KO. But yeah, that ends off Gargulum Speed, and then we're going into the next one, which I think is like the middle of A tier. We're going to go with Fiskarna. Now, Fiskarna is actually a pretty good Loomian, especially with Regift. It also pairs well with Mimisk, with Facade, because it's able to disguise itself as Mimisk. Not Mimisk. Mimisk is able to disguise itself as freaking Fiskarna. So it has that funny option as well. And Fiskarna has Regift. It has Provoke. It has healing. It has coverage. It's honestly a very solid Loomian. On top of that, it has setup. So I do think it deserves a spot, especially because of Regift. Again, Regift is just a really good ability. So it having access to Regift is just amazing and makes it really hard to stop. You can't poison it. You can't provoke it. You can't do anything to it. You have to do damage to it to, like, do anything. You know? And then on top of that, you could even run Mysterious Dust if you wanted to even stop Poison Barb attempts, you know? And then on top of that, you also have Mudslide to get rid of traps. Moving on to the next one, we're going to actually have Harvesect. Now, Harvesect, I feel like, is a really solid Loomian because with its really cool ability of Life Force, it doesn't have any energy, but it has to use its own health, 10 health to be exact, to use a move. And it having a really high health stat is really nice. And it has, like, Driving Force, Earthquake, Soul Storm, Soul Harvest. It has those really solid options of being able to do damage and to be a support unit. It's just pretty good overall. Not really much else to say besides it's pretty good. Plus its typing is, like, interesting, you know? And then the next one, we're going to have one of my favorite Loomians of all time, Nymare. I could sit and talk about Nymare for like a minute and a half, but I won't because you already know what Nymare does. It blows stuff up with its light type moves, and if there's a plant type, you click Jet Stream until it dies. That's pretty much what Nymare is going to do. It has Barter, it has Wonder Herb, it has Peace of Mind, it has Flash and Flee, it has Perch. It has options, and it has support options. You could even use Harmonious Chord to try to go for something, to put something to sleep. You could use Dissonant Chord to prevent a Cosmeor from going to sleep. And it's honestly very solid. And if the future gets Nova Blast, it's going to blow everything up. So that'll be pretty nice. And then we are going to go into the next one, which is going to be our first Soul Burst, I'm pretty sure, which is going to be Soul Burst Metronet. Now, I don't think Soul Burst Metronet is as hype as everyone was saying it was. 142 attack, 115 speed, getting health upon attacking. Yeah, that's pretty good. Have fun healing when you have 50 health. You know, that's my problem. Is it doesn't have health. It loses energy. The only thing it does better than normal Metronet is sweeping. That is it. That's all it does. And yeah, on to the next one. The second to last in A tier. The biggest tier that we've had so far. We are going to have a Kalos. I do really like a Kalos. I can't lie when my bias gets in the way a little here, but I do think a Kalos is really good. You have healing options with Soft Water now that it has been buffed. You have Rogue Assault. You have Driving Force. You have Drudge for offensive sweeping. You have Brawn Boost. You know, you have options, you know? And I think that is just really nice for something like a Kalos to have those options of just winning games. And it's really hard to take down because it has a health stat. So with Drudge, it's really solid. With Aggressive, it has coverage. It's just a really solid Loomian overall. It can do pretty much anything on a team that you want it to do. Plus, its typing is, like, okay defensively, you know? And both of its abilities are really good. And then on to the last one of A tier. We're going to have Wintrix. Oh my god, we're finally done with A tier. Wintrix having its dual stab basically unresisted by everything except... It's pretty much unresisted by everything because of Wise. Unless something could quad resist both ice and air, which I don't think anything in this game can do that. then you really can't stop Wintrix's dual coverage. I think there actually is a typing out there that resists both of them. What? Ice and metal? Surebot. Surebot resists. Surebot's your best bet. But then again, you have the option of Mud Spatter, but you're not really ever using that option. You have Brain Freeze to hit those mind types that want to switch in for whatever reason. You know, you have options, and Wintrix can hit really, really freakishly hard, you know? But that finally ends off A tier. I'll leave it up on screen now, at last. But then we're going to move on to S tier. Now in S tier, at the very bottom, I'm going to put Dregadine. Now I think that the nerfs to Dregadine definitely hit it hard enough to where it is not as ridiculously broken as it was before. Because when it was first released, oh my god! That thing was it was just an Uber. Instant Uber. 135 attack with Draco Beam with 75 speed. It was usable with boots. Nowadays, it's like you can't really use boots with it, right? You can. I do still think that boots is one of the better options to use on this thing because you want to make up for your awful speed stat. So I guess it has that option. And yeah, it still hits really, really hard. And I do think it is still a very, very, very scary threat to fight if it all comes down to it. But then we're going to go to the next one, which is going to be Halvantic. Now, Halvantic is, it's really good. It has a health stat. It has coverage. It can be annoying with, like, poison. It's just really bulky and annoying to take down. It might be walled by earth types, yes, but then you can just hit them with Gnarly Gash and then switch out, right? You can just do that. I do think Halvantic is a really, really, really strong Loomian, though. And then we have Imperior. I am purely putting Imperior in here because of Resentful. Currently, as of this video, Resentful is still 100% of the health that it's lost that it does to you. That's all, right? That's the only reason it's up here is because of Resentful. I don't like Imperior, and once Resentful, the nerf happens, my god, I can finally use Flash and Flee again. But I just absolutely hate Imperior, but I can't deny that Resentful is a really strong and niche ability. And makes it very annoying. Because Imperior makes it so you can't throw out offensive moves without having the potential to be one-shot, right? Like, if you set up, Imperior switches in, and then you're threatened out. You cannot lose your wall breaker. Imperiors just can threaten all that stuff. Once the nerf happens, though, finally, this thing will die. And the next one we have is going to be Nevermare. Now, Nevermare is a very solid sweeper and a very good late game cleaner as well, because it might not have the best health stat, but it doesn't have the worst defenses either. Like, you have a ranged defense stat, so you can tank pretty much any one ranged hit from max health. Once you click bulk up, you can tank any melee hit. You are fast. Razor Sharp makes it so you can crit, and it's just honestly solid overall. And now the next one we're going to have Ursnack. Ursnack just purely enables things. They also have slapdown options, and it can just get rid of items. You know, it can baffle, it can heartbreak, it can have priority options with Shadow Sprint, and it's just overall a very good Loomian, and just enables pretty much anything that is slow to just absolutely pop the heck off. Like, Colossus Snack was incredibly annoying because you could barely handle. Like, if you struggle against Ursnack, you're going to struggle against Colossotrops, right? And I think once the nerf to Baffle happens, I'd move Ursnack down a little bit, because they'd still be good lowering offenses, you know, but the speed is what makes Baffle so good. But the next one here we're going to have is Chienta. Now, Chienta, not really much to say. You Brawn Boost, Radiant Rush, Mega Punch, Frost Punch if you want. Ice Hammer I do think is better because it doesn't make contact, which means you won't activate contact-based abilities. So if an Obsidian wanted to switch in, I mean, I guess it would all depend, you know? I think that would all depend at that point. But I guess if you don't proc Resilience on Tundralin, that's good, right? And your Radiant Rush would hit really hard in the future when Power Herb is introduced. Then Power Herb Chienta could be really good with Solar Punch. But the next one we're going to have, we're almost into the top 3. We're going to have Metronet. Now, I do think Metronet deserves its place this high. It has never really been a bad Loomian. It has pretty much always been banned in every tournament. From what I know of, I don't know if it's banned as of now. I don't really do comp stuff, so I don't know if it's banned, but who knows. And yeah, I'd say Metronet is very good. Not much to say besides Soulburst Metronet. Only thing Metronet does worse than Soulburst form is sweep. That's it. And then we're going to have the top 3 by technicality. We're going to have My Mask in the top 3. And I do think My Mask is really good, right? I think it is really, really good because it has a lot of options. Facade, Mask Swap, you have Fadeaway, you have Slap Down, you have Poison Barbs, you have Barbs. It has so many options for what My Mask can do. You never know what it's going to do till it uses something, right? And that's just what is so cool about My Mask, and I love it. But the number 2 spot is going to go to Gargolem Defense Form. I think Gargolem Defense Form is really freaking good. You know, it just tanks any hit, you know. I love using the funny Defense Form Rageful Plushie one thing that I've used a lot in the past. And it's just overall very good Loomian. You have Slap Down, Empathize, Icicle Traps, Barbs, Mudslide. You have options. But yeah, now by technicality, in my opinion, the best event Loomian, I gotta say, it's Soulburst High School. I know I've ranked it number 1 on both of my tier lists recently, but I really can't help it because I just think it is so freakishly good. I think Soulburst High School can just make you auto win a game. It just enables an entirely different play style. And it just enables so many things in the game. And then even once it's out of its Soulburst form, you can even use a Baffle set. Like, once it's out of its Soulburst form, you can, like, Fadeaway, Baffle, Rejuvenate, and Ice Hammer. You know? You could really do that. You could. And it would be funny. But then again, it does have some problems where it struggles with light types if it doesn't Mega Chomp. You know? And having its Soul move be immunized by light types is definitely always a problem. But yeah, and that wraps up S tier. And if you were paying attention, I said that we had 6 tiers. The last one I'm giving to Swirl. Now, Swirl has its own tier. I'll just put it up on screen now. I have nothing to say besides, like, if this thing didn't have Appetite, it would probably be D tier. Because Swirl sucks without Appetite. Its whole niche is Appetite, right? It's just... you dodge, hopefully get a good boost. Perch, hopefully get a good boost. You can only do damage with Jet Stream and Mud Spatter. That's all it does. And with that, that will wrap up the entire tier list. Put it up on screen now. Holy crap, that was a lot. Let me know what you think of these rankings. I think when there's a bigger tier list, it's a lot harder to rank things. But this is all purely based on my opinion again. So if you have your own opinion, go let me know what you guys think. But yeah, with all that being said, hopefully you guys enjoyed. And I will see everyone in the next one. Bye-bye.